to say. With this topic, there's not things that really talk about it straight up in the Bible, and so I would ask, Lord, for an extra special help from your Holy Spirit just to communicate my thoughts clearly, and thank you for this time, and we love you, and in Jesus' name we pray, amen. Okay. So, we are starting a 5-week series on dating. And what it's going to look like is tonight, we're going to, right. We're going to bust some myths and about dating. So, I'm going to be really clear up front with you guys that I am not telling you yes to date or not to date in high school, okay? You can even ask me my opinion and I'm not going to tell you because that I think is a personal decision of where you guys are at in your maturity levels. That's something for you and your parents to go over, so do not go home tonight and tell your parents that Shauna said I could date, okay? Because I'm not saying that. But what we're going to do is we're going to go over really a lot more of what should we look like when we're dating. Because if we're going to live our lives as Jesus followers, that means every part of our life should be pointing us more to Christ, which includes our dating life. Okay, so it's more of thinking of this big umbrella of what we should look like, and then a piece of it is, yeah, that should cover when I'm dating and when I'm thinking about dating, when I'm making those decisions. So, tonight we're going to talk about some myths surrounding dating. Next week we're going to talk about purity. We're going to split up with guys and girls, because some of that stuff is just a little more, a lot more intimate, and we're just going to talk about it with those groups. And then the third week, we're going to talk about, instead of always looking for the right person to date, we're going to talk about being the person somebody else would want to date. You see that? So, and then we're going to do a couple weeks of question and answers. Tonight, what I want you to do is if you have a question, I want you to hold it in your brain. And then when I say we're done teaching, I want you to take out your phone and try to write it down. I'll give you guys actually a couple minutes to do that. Please don't do it when I'm teaching, because that'll just distract me, and it'll probably distract you too. So, okay. So we're gonna go into myths. Okay. So myth number 1. This myth is I'm incomplete if I'm not dating, or something is wrong with me if I'm not dating. Okay, can you go to, see if we'll get this YouTube video to work? We have sound. Here's the sound. Okay, can you pause for a second? I will send the picture while they're doing this. So this is a movie that I do not recommend you go watch, okay? It's called Jerry Maguire. Do not go home and tell your mom that Shauna let you watch this. But I want you to listen to this clip.
We work in a business of tough competitors. You.
You have me at hello.
Okay. So, okay. Laugh about it for a second, it's fine. I'm getting a little Alright, one call. Okay, so I'm glad you're laughing at this. Because it is absolutely ridiculous, okay? This thought of completing someone. So, it is true, what I want you to hear is that it is true that we are broken people. We are incomplete people. Every single human being that has ever walked on this earth, has ever been born, so all of us, we are incomplete, okay? Because we've chosen to sin, that separates us and breaks our relationship with God. So when we're walking along life, we know we're broken, maybe we've chosen to follow Jesus, right? But then we're like, I think that guy over there, he's really going to complete me. And the falsity, and is that a word, is that is a broken person too, okay? So another broken, incomplete person is not going to complete you. They're actually going to mess you up more, really, is the truth of it. And so the only person who can really complete us fully, eternally, is the person. Thank you. Is Jesus. So what I don't want you guys to do is when you're thinking about dating, or when you even find somebody that you like and you maybe it's a good thing that you're going to date them, don't think that they're going to fulfill all of your desires. They're not going to help you. They might help you be complete in Jesus. They could point you to look at Jesus, but they're not going to be the person that makes sure that I've arrived once I date or once I get married. Okay, so the verse for this one is, and I am sure of this, that he who began a good work in you will bring it to completion at the day of Jesus Christ. That's from Philippians. So this idea of being complete, that I'm dating, or is something wrong with me? Am I broken? Well, yeah, something is wrong with you. You are broken. But another person is not going to fix that. So do not look for someone else to fix that, when really only the person that can do it is Christ. So we need to look to him first. Cool? Okay, that's the first one. I hope I'm crushing some dreams tonight. Myth number 2. I should date because everyone else is. Okay, so I was thinking about this, and of course the phrase, I don't know if your parents use this, but my parents use it, would you jump off a bridge?
I would.
Okay. First of all, some of you would jump off the bridge if everybody else is doing it. Okay. Specifically this section. Also, I don't think it's that strong of an argument. So, you can go to the next one. Listen to this verse from Proverbs. Proverbs is a book of wisdom, right? It tells us if we live these certain ways, we're setting ourselves up better to have a more successful life. It doesn't always mean if I follow God my whole life, I'm not going to have trouble, but it sets us up for good things. Okay, this is what Proverbs 3 says. Blessed is the one who finds wisdom and the one who gets understanding. For the gain from her, wisdom, is better than gain from silver, and her profit better than gold. She is more precious than jewels, and nothing you desire can compare with her. Long life is in her right hand, and her left hand are riches and honor. Her ways are ways of pleasantness, and her paths are peace. So, this myth, I think is really something you guys probably deal with. You might see people around you that are dating, you might want that. The desire to have companionship and to be close to someone is not a bad thing at all. But instead of just dating because everybody else is, it actually should be a process, right? When we're thinking about who we're gonna date. So talk to God about it, right? Ask your friends what they think. Maybe you have someone in mind that you would like to date. Ask your friends, hey, do you know about this person? Do you know about their character? Ask your friends about it. Talk to your parents, right? I don't know, I'm not gonna make you guys raise your hands, but I just want you to think in your head of how many of you are actually have those open conversations with your parents about dating, right? It can feel really awkward and kind of just like, oh, I don't know, but your parents have been there and they have wisdom. So, seek advice from a mentor, right? Don't just jump into it just because everybody else is doing it. It doesn't mean that it's the right time or the right person for you. Use wisdom. And Ryan and I were talking about this. Understand what dating actually is. A lot of you answered. I asked questions. I'm distracted by the whispers. I asked you guys to write me back and tell me what you think the purpose of dating is. And like almost 100% of you said the purpose of dating, it leads to marriage, which is true. And so when you're dating somebody, I'm not saying you date somebody and then you like run away together, okay? Also don't go home and tell your parents I said that. But it's important for us to understand that when we're dating, we are looking for someone who has qualities of somebody we could marry someday, right? So when you just jump into dating because everybody else is doing it, but you're not actually thinking about some of the consequences, or that you are kind of holding in your hands somebody else's emotions, right? That's important to think about those things. And also, please don't just find someone to date just so you can have a boyfriend or girlfriend, right? I mean, I probably did that in 6th grade. I dated a guy named Toby. And Toby bought me a gift for every holiday. This is off the cuff. I didn't even practice saying this. Like, you know, the typical like Valentine's Day, my birthday, Christmas, Ryan, don't tell. And the kicker was he bought me a present for St. Patrick's Day. And then I was like, oh, maybe. It was like a Catholic necklace, anyway. Which is fine, but I'm not Catholic. So anyways, I just wanted to date someone, right? So, you know, I guess I got some presents off it. But anyway, okay. That's another myth I should add in. Don't date just for presents. But please do not just date someone because everybody else is doing it and I just want to have somebody, right? Because everybody else does. So that's a pretty important one. All right, myth number 3. I should date because it feels good. Okay, so truth. All right, Philippians 2, 3, and 4. Do nothing. Okay, first of all, Philippians was the first verse from myth number 1. This is another one. This is Paul writing, and Paul was not married, right? So he's even saying some things we should, you know, listen to him. It doesn't just come from married people. Do nothing out of selfish ambition or vain conceit. Rather, in humility, value others above yourselves, not looking to your own interests, but each of you to the interests of others. And it goes on to talk about how we should imitate Christ, right? And so it is true that dating can feel good, okay? I'm not saying the myth is that dating feels good. Care, communication, gifts on your birthday, I wrote that one down, etc. Those things feel good, right? Even having the attention of someone can feel good, and that's not a wrong thing. But this isn't why you should date, right? That's selfish, okay? If I'm going to go into a relationship and I'm going to say, oh, this feels good for me, buy me those presents, even for St. Patrick's Day, you know, all these things, I am therefore just focused on me, which is the opposite of Christ, right? And so this is not a reason why you should date. And you're not going to consider what's best for the other person. Okay. Go on. Myth number 4. This is a really good one. And my wording is interesting, and so I don't want to mislead you. But myth number 4 says you need, in all caps, to date someone, to get to know them, to see if you can marry them. Okay, so like I said before, the purpose of dating is eventually marriage. Oh, and I meant to clarify, tonight I'm talking about being in a relationship with someone, not necessarily like going on dates. I don't really know how many high schoolers just like go on dates, but I want to make that clear that I'm not necessarily, does that make sense? I'm making a distinction between those things. I don't think it's wrong to go on dates, as long as you lay some ground rules, for sure. But I'm talking more about like being in a relationship, committing, calling this person your boyfriend or girlfriend. Yeah, so that's the difference. So, like I said, a lot of you in your text said purpose of dating is marriage. But I'm gonna say that you can actually get to know someone's character, personality, things they like, yada yada yada, before you date them. In fact, I actually recommend doing that, especially when you're young. Being this young, you don't totally even know who you are yet, right? And so when you decide to get into a relationship with someone, you're now dragging them in to you figuring out your identity, which is just pretty messy all around. And there are differences, obviously, between just being a friend with someone and having a romantic relationship, but there is time to get into that romantic relationship. So I would argue that it's actually good to be friends with them first. So things like, are they a believer? Do they love Jesus? Do they treat their mom nicely? That's a big, important one, okay? I'm talking about guys and girls. It matters how somebody treats their parents. Big time. You laugh about it, but I'm very serious about it. Do we have things in common? You can find out all these things as friends. And I'm not anti-dating, you guys, but I'm just saying, if you're dating someone to be like, well, I need to know them so I can see if I can marry them. No, you actually don't need to date someone to do that. You can totally figure out these things, a lot of the core foundational things, while you're just friends with somebody. So, and if you do these things, it'll save yourself a lot of heartbreak, because you're either gonna find out things you don't like about them while you're friends, or you're gonna find out about these things while you're dating, and which one hurts more, right? Breaking a friendship off, maybe, I don't know, or breaking a relationship, right? That's gonna hurt. That's gonna hurt a lot more. Okay, you can go to the next slide. So, this book is awesome. It's called Not Yet Married. It's by Marshall Segal. He is a writer for Desiring God. When we did the prayer night, you guys read an article by John Piper, who is the founder of Desiring God. And I am kind of reading, I've skimmed a little bit of this book. It is so good that I will buy you a copy. If you want it and you can read it, it's incredible. So I'm going to read a little section that talks about why you don't necessarily have to date someone until really you can marry them. So he, in this chapter, it's called Date for More Than Marriage. And this section asks the question, how then shall we date? So this is one of the points. I'm going to read a couple paragraphs from him. It's really good. So try to zone into this verb. Clue in what verbs. Okay. It says, wait to date until you can marry. If all of our dating should be aimed at marriage, which for those of you that text me back, agree with that, and I think those that you didn't text me back probably could agree with that. Why do so many of us date before we can marry? Why did I have a girlfriend when I was 12 and 13 and 14 and 15 and so on? At age 12, I'm sure I really believed I might marry my girlfriend, even though I couldn't marry her for 8 or even 10 more years. Think about that. If we had gotten married when we graduated college, it would have taken us 10 years to be married, as long as we had been pursuing marriage. If we're honest, this is really good, listen to this part. If we're honest, we don't pursue marriage as teenagers. We pursue attention, affection, significance, and security. And as we pursue and prioritize those things over God and marriage, subtly at first and then more blatantly later on, we welcome chaos, confusion, heartache, and temptation of dating when we can't marry, when we can't bring dating to its good and intended goal. Some of us might be born wanting to be married, but none of us are born ready to be married, right? Duh. Okay. Legally, we can't marry until we're 18, except in Nebraska and Mississippi, where we must be even older, 19 and 21, respectively. Beyond the law, there are serious questions of our maturity and stability. Listen to this. I want you guys to ask this question to yourself. Has our boyfriend or girlfriend matured enough, or yourself, to have any idea what they might be like as a husband or wife for the next 50 years? Have you guys ever thought about that? Okay, I'm dating somebody, but I could then get married and be a husband or a wife for 50 years? Yeah. Will one or both of us be able to provide for a family financially? Has his or her faith in Jesus been tested enough by trials, to be confident if it's real? Some of you will hate this advice. Ready? I'm sure I would have, and I would have too. But we all need to acknowledge that we can date long before we can marry. But that doesn't mean we should. It's almost impossible to date toward marriage when marriage isn't even on our radar yet. You may be dreaming about the marriage already, but is it realistic that the two of you could marry anytime soon? Before college, Probably not. Some people, yes, but most likely not. If I could go back and do it all over again, and I wish I could, I would wait to date until I could marry. My advice, take it or leave it, is to wait until you can reasonably marry him or her in the next 18 months. So think like a year and a half, right? So when you're 12, right? Okay. It doesn't mean you have to marry that quickly. The important part is that you could, if God made it clear that that was his will and his timing for you. So this book is so good. And anyway, so if you want a copy, I will buy one for you. Yeah. All right, and our last myth, and we're going to have some more time at the end here, but that's okay. Okay, this is a really, really, really important one. We're going to go more into this. We're going to go more into this next week when we're talking more specifically about purity. But the myth is dating is no big deal because sex is no big deal. Go to the next. 1 Peter 2:9 says, "But you are not like that, for you are a chosen people. You are royal priests, a holy nation, God's very own possession. As a result, you can show others the goodness of God, for he has called you out of the darkness into his wonderful light." So, I'm sure that you guys, knowingly or not, have friends that are having sex. I'm sure you do. I'm even sure that maybe some of you in this room have before, okay? So I am here to tell you, firstly, that there is forgiveness and redemption. Maybe even maybe you've done some things that are not fully sex, but it's really flirted with the line. There's forgiveness, there's redemption. You are not beyond hope of healing, okay? I feel like when I was growing up, I kind of heard in the best intentions from older people, but that, you want to save your whole self for your spouse, which is true. There are really good things in that, but that kind of leaves the people that have already made some decisions in the dust, okay? So I want to be really clear that I'm not here shaming, I'm not condemning, but I also want to be clear that sex is a big deal, okay? And I'm also here to say that sex is a good thing. God created it for good. I think sometimes, and I would say in youth group, for sure, we don't really talk about it much because it feels like such a huge thing. We don't even know where to start. And so we kind of just I might get emotional about this, we kind of just push it off and don't talk about it at all. And it just sets up, this is part of my story too, it sets up people to be really ashamed about it when you get married, okay? So I think when we say, no, Christians don't talk about that, that's, a taboo thing in the church, we don't talk about it, we make it seem like a bad thing. It's not a bad thing, it's a good thing. But obviously in the, I'm missing the word in my head, but in the context of marriage, thank you, Dan. So the last thing I want you to hear from me is that sex is bad, don't talk about it, then it becomes a source of shame. But I also don't want you guys going in the other direction and becoming desensitized to it. So from the dawn of time, sex has been an issue among humans, okay? I mean, I just last night told the story to the middle schoolers about Jacob, and he fell in love with Rachel, and he worked 7 years to marry her. You guys know the story. And then on the wedding night, Rachel's dad gives his sister, or his other daughter, Leah, to him instead. And then Jacob wakes up in the morning, he's like, oh, there was Leah, okay? And it's like a whole mess. So he's married to Leah, then he gets married to Rachel, then they have a couple of maidservants, and he ends up having all these children through 4 women. Ask my husband, 1 woman is enough, okay? 4 women is a nightmare. I can't even imagine, being a sister wife to all that. So, it is not brand new. It is not brand new that you guys are dealing with sex literally everywhere, okay? So, between Hollywood, society, culture, your friends saying it's no big deal, okay? I'm sorry, you guys. I'm sorry that that's just your constant bombardment, right? So in that, I don't want you to swing the other way and just be like, whatever, I mean, it's everywhere anyway. I might as well just, I don't want to say do it because that sounds bad, but might as well just engage. Okay. this too. You might be tempted, because we do this as humans, we compare ourselves. You might say like, well, my friend over there is having sex, I'm not doing that, but I'm dating around, I'm, messing with people's hearts, but I'm not like that person over there, right? As Christ followers, we are called to look different. We are called out of the darkness into God's light, and that we should not be bowing down to this idol of sex in our culture just because everybody else is doing it, okay? So I want you to hear the truth in that dating is a big deal, aside from if you're having sex or not, right? So there should be a process of going through it. So, okay, so what we're gonna do, because we have a little bit of extra time, I would like you guys to take a few minutes. I forgot paper, so I am trusting you big time to pull out your phones and open up your notes section or whatever, and write down some questions or thoughts. Leaders can do this too. And I'm actually, because this is such a bigger topic, we're gonna spend a little time each week writing down questions. So then when we get to the question and answer week, we have things that you guys have been thinking about the whole series through, okay? So go ahead, we'll just spend a few minutes, write down some questions, and if you wanna just text them to me, that's fine. If you'd rather it be anonymous, I'll have paper next week and you can write them down, okay? Okay, do that for a couple minutes.